welcome any members of the public and press who've attended today. And can I kindly ask you to observe the meeting only and not to speak or participate? Can I please remind you all to switch your phones to silent for the duration of the meeting? And in addition, can I refer you to those 4 remote meetings which have been previously circulated, namely, your microphone should be switched to mute unless you're speaking. The Democratic Service Officer will start a roll call. We'll take a roll call to start the meeting of all members and officers. And I say, should you wish to ask a question or make a comment, can you please indicate either by the chat function or by raising your electronic hand via Teams. I will assume that you've all read the paperwork before us today prior to the meeting. And when asking a question, please can you, if possible, indicate which page number you're referring to. And when speaking, introduce yourself. Say the first thing to do on today is to do a roll call. I say I'm Councillor Mike Harvey, the chair, and I call on Democratic Services Officer to take a roll call. Is that you, Charlotte?
Yes, Chair, that's me.
Thanks.
So, Councillor Harvey, I've got you down as present. I've had apologies from Councillor Cypher Harmon.
No, I'm here now. Change your plan.
Oh, sorry.
That's
There we are.
okay.
I'll mark you as present.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Councillor Sharon Freegard.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Nigel Hunt.
Present, Charles.
Councillor Steve Hunt.
I'm here.
Councillor Dennis Keogh. No. Councillor Simon Niall.
I'm here at a minute, thank you.
Councillor Alan Llewellyn. I think, Chair, we had apologies from Councillor Llewellyn.
Yes, he did give apologies.
Councillor Sandra Miller.
Present.
I've also had apologies from Councillor Mason. Councillor Del Morgan.
Present, all. Here I am. Thank you.
Councillor Suzanne Paddison.
Present.
Councillor Lynette Purcell and Councillor Sheila Penry. I've both had apologies from them. Councillor Sonia Reynolds.
Present.
Councillor Arwyn Woolcock.
Yeah, present, Chair.
Councillor Rob Jones.
Yes, here, Charlotte.
Councillor Edward Latham.
Yeah, present, Charles.
Councillor Carol Clement Williams.
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Doreen Jones.
Present.
Councillor Alan Lockyer.
Present.
Councillor Peter Richards.
Present, Charlotte. Thank you.
Councillor Peter Rees.
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Annette Wingrave.
Sent an apology, Charlotte.
Thanks, Leader. Councillor Leanne Jones.
Present, Charlotte.
Stephen Phillips.
Present.
Karen Jones.
Present.
Aled Evans.
Present.
Andrew Jarrett.
Yeah, present.
Nicola Pierce.
Present.
Howell Jenkins.
No, I'm here for Howell, Charlotte. Hugh Jones.
Thank you. Craig Griffiths.
Present.
Mike Roberts.
Present.
Karen Furlow.
Present.
Tammy Davis.
Present.
Chloe Plowman.
Present.
And I think, Chair, that's everyone. Can anyone let me know if I've missed them, please? No, Chair, then that's everyone. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks for that, Charlotte. Item 1 on the Cabinet Scrutiny Committee papers is declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest, please? No hands up. Okay. Item 2, minutes of the previous meetings, these pages 5 to 40. If I go through them, minutes of the previous meeting, 29th of January 2020. Anybody not happy with those minutes, please show a hand. No. Could I have a proposer for the minutes and seconder, please?
I propose, Chair.
I
Thank you.
second.
Thank you. Go to the minutes, 5th of February 2020. Could you indicate if you're not happy with the minutes, please? I see no indications. Could I have a proposer, please?
I propose, Chair.
Thanks.
I'll second.
Seconder, please. Lovely,
Second.
thank you. Then minutes, 12th of February 2020. Anybody not happy with the minutes, please indicate. Okay, I see no indications. Could I propose it, please?
I propose, Chair.
Thanks. Seconder, please.
Yeah.
Thank
Me.
you. Then the 19th of February. Anybody indicate who's not happy, please? Okay, I see no indications. Could I have a proposer, please?
Again, I propose, Chair.
Thank you.
And
Seconder,
I'll
please.
second.
Lovely, thank you. Then the 5th of March 2020. Could you indicate if you're not happy with the minutes, please? Okay, I see no indications. Could I have a proposer, please?
Propose, Chair.
And a seconder?
Second.
Thank you. And then minutes, the 21st of May 2020. Anybody not happy with them, indicate, please. No indications. Could I propose it, please?
Propose, Chair.
Seconder, please.
I'll second.
Then the minutes, 25th of June 2020. Could I have indication if you're not happy, please? Okay, I see no indications. Could I propose it, please?
Propose, Chair.
Seconder, please.
I'll second.
Thanks. Then the minutes, the 23rd of July 2020. Could you indicate if you're not happy, please? Okay, I see no indications. Could I propose it, please?
Propose, Chair.
Could I have a seconder,
Second.
please? Lovely. And lastly, the minutes for the 30th of July 2020. Could you indicate if you're not happy, please? Okay, I see no indications. Could I have a proposer, please?
Propose, Chair.
Seconder?
Second.
Lovely, thanks for that. That completes that item. Item 3 on the papers, pre-decision scrutiny. Select appropriate items from the cabinet agenda for pre-decision scrutiny. In brackets, cabinet reports inclusive scrutiny members. So if you go to the cabinet papers, for the information of cabinet and officers in pre-decision scrutiny, it was decided that we'd only scrutinise one item, and that item is curbside collections, item 8, which is on pages 275 to 286. So we've all read the reports. If unless officers have got anything to add to the reports, no, then we'll go straight into questions. At the pre-meeting, we had a number of people indicating. First person, Councillor Del Morgan, please.
Thank you, Diolch yn fawr, Chair. I've had this email from Councillor Alun Llywelyn, who's apologised for today's meeting. He's asked me would I read out his 5 questions. So if I can read them out on block, and if anyone needs me to go back over them, I will. I think the officers have had them already. Question 1. How are the community groups or textile banks able to get a viable price if we aren't able to by curbside collection? Question 2. Do we have a market for textiles collected at the HWRCs? 3. How much information is available about alternatives? For example, the community groups refer to in the report to gauge access to recycling. 4. What would the timescale be if curbside is withdrawn? Enough notice would need to be given, and during the current circumstances, options are limited. Also at present, many of the textile banks, for example, Salvation Army, are locked. And question 5, will capacity be retained, for example, vehicle design, if the economic circumstances change for curbside? Is that okay, Chair?
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. Mr. Roberts, please.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies if it's not entirely clear in the report, but it's the difference between recycling and reuse. There is no market for recycling, but there is a market for sorted reusable clothing. So the mixed textiles that we're collecting, there is no recycling market for that. And if we were to sort it, the income would need to be greater than the cost of sorting for it to be viable for the council. And that isn't the case. In terms of the second question, do we have a market for textiles collected at the household waste recycling centres? We do not have a market for recycling. FCC, who operate the sites for us, would have used the same outlet as we did. Again, the market is in the voluntary sector who are prepared to undertake sorting. And as FCC is a major waste company, they have much better access to the markets, to those markets than us. And I can confirm that the textiles collected at our household waste recycling centres are being sent for sorting. In terms of how much information is available about the alternatives, perhaps some members in the meeting may wish to share their community experiences here, because I know that there are a number of these sort of cash for clothes type events that have been organised across the county borough, but we can certainly share details of parties known to be offering cash for clothes, and also, subject to their approval, details of community reps who are organising events that others might get in touch with if they'd like to have more information. Regarding the timescale for if curbside is withdrawn, notice would need to be given as was stated, and I think it would be a case of, as long as it took to communicate the change properly, but attached to that a minimum of 1 month's notice, and members may have a view on the minimum notice period. And the last question was about, would the capacity be retained in the vehicle design? The answer for that is yes. I think we're not, the vehicle design for the curbside sorters is there. I think it's 2 years before any of the first vehicles are due to be changed currently, and so we would be retaining the vehicle design as they are. So I don't know if there's any further questions, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Morgan, you happy?
More or less, thank you. I was just thinking, as I was listening to Mike there, the market being for reuse rather than recycling, I got that from the report. But there's obviously a little bit of a mixed market out there, if I can use that expression, across the county, so that some areas have easier transition, if you like, to this proposal than others. So provided if the council is going to assist in promoting more information about the voluntary sector capacity, then that will help. But I just fear that in some areas it might be a little bit more difficult for some individuals, particularly if they haven't got transport, etc. So that is going to be an obstacle for us. The other thing, though, is well, okay, the time scale. I just wondered whether, because of the pandemic and the on-off lockdown situation, that we might want to give ourselves a little bit more time. And lastly, Chair, the capacity in vehicles is being retained, in answer to that question, for at least 2 years, which I think is wise, because it's not just that we might change our minds and say, yes, we want to start collecting curbside textiles again, but it might be that we find there's volatility in the market, and perhaps the voluntary sector engagement will itself collapse, and then we might have to pick up the tab and say, well, okay, we're going to have to do it again. So those were the reasons, I think, behind the questions. So if those additional points can be taken on board, then that's fine. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, Councillor Leanne Jones, I don't know if you want to come in here. I can see your hand up.
Yeah, it's just referring really to what Mike said about the cash for clothes. I know a number of my colleagues have been doing it, across Neath Port Talbot. There is a company in Port Talbot who does it, and it's raising funds for the local community. I've done it a few times in Tonna, and the money's going towards Christmas funds. So it is an opportunity out there. You can do it socially distanced, you can do it safe, and it's putting something back into the community. So that's an idea really for people who are not doing it in their areas.
Okay, thanks for that. And I see Councillor Peter Richards got his hand up. I think it's relating to this, and Sonia, so I'll go to Peter first, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to raise a concern. We've been doing cash for clothes. It's going extremely well, but it's only certain types of clothing that they're collecting at the moment. But one of the concerns that's been highlighted by the recycled people is that there's a lot of this ending up in landfill at the moment throughout the world, and it's causing major environmental concerns. So that doesn't mention that in the report, but it's something we need to be aware of.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. I'll call in Councillor Hunt and then Councillor Reynolds, please. Steve?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think Cabinet Member Councillor Peter Richards just touched on my question. In reference to Mike Roberts, I have a number of those clothes and material banks in Seven Sisters. So they are, as Leanne said as well, they are a little bit of a cash flow to help community groups, organisations, so forth. We also have a number of charitable, everybody will know this, they probably get enough number of those bags, so they let the boxes to put textiles out in that way as well. So there are a number of ways of disposing of these so that they do not end up in landfill. But my question, Chair, is that it's in relationship to the coronavirus and what the leader have recently spoke about with our our recycling plants and other aspects of these textiles, touching on what Councillor Richards said, because if people, and if you know people like we all do, when the capacity is not able to be collected, hence the lockdown, if they can't empty these material banks, or there's no way of disposing of their clothes, then to a certain extent they're going to end up in the big black waste bins, which will end up in landfill. That is something obviously we'd want to avoid. So my question for Mike is, not knowing the COVID length of time that we might be in lockdown and nobody collecting from our communities, what happens to this material when there's no capacity for it to be disposed of in the correct manner? As I touched on it, probably with the individual, it will go into the bins or inadvertently be fly tipped. So I just wondered, have we thought of those issues in the report? I do support the report because of the way it's laid out, but I just thought that this problem being thought of when drawing up the report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Mr. Roberts, please.
Yeah, I think I would add, I think in line with the national strategy, which is very much a high reuse, recycling and composting policy, followed by energy from waste to recover energy from those materials that cannot be reused and recycled and composted. So that's where our material that we're not recovering from reuse and recycling and composting goes. It goes for energy from waste as opposed to landfill. And in terms of members of the public who may have additional material, our exemption scheme continues up and running and is continuing to run, and that is in place. So I mean, I would argue that there is no reason why people should not appropriately dispose of their waste through all the both weekly and fortnightly services provided by the council.
Okay, thanks for that.
Can I come back quickly, Chair, on that?
Yeah, quickly.
I think, yeah, quickly. I think Mike misses my point. It's not about appropriately. It's about them trying to do it appropriately. However, there's nowhere for it to go. That was my point. If there's nobody collecting it from the private businesses and companies, they will put it in the black bin. It's no point in saying they should be doing this or should be doing that. If it's in the black bin, then I assume that would end up in landfill. That was my point. Are we giving them information? I'm not against the report today, but are we giving the information out across Neath and Talbot what they can do if they haven't got anywhere to dispose of their fabrics and material items? That's all, and it's not regarding reusable or non-reusable items, really. Thank you.
Okay, so Roberts, do you want to come back on that, or?
Just in whatever decision is taken today, in light of today, we will review the information that we're giving out with respect to textiles. But as I say, it does go for incineration rather than landfill. That's the first port of call after reuse and recycling and composting. Okay.
If you've got your hands up and you've spoken already, could you put them down, because it gets a bit confusing otherwise. I got 4 other people indicating: Councillor Carol Clement Williams, Councillor Reynolds, Councillor Patterson and Councillor Arwyn Woolcock. So can I go to Councillor Clement Williams first, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to say, I have given Mike a grilling over this one. I obviously with my finance hat on, and financially it's not viable for us to keep doing what we've done so far. The report does touch on the people putting them in the white bins but not on the top, and it causes all sorts of problems. So I've asked all the financial questions, and I'm satisfied that this is the best way financially. I'm not talking about morally or whatever. However, on that point, on a personal capacity, we have started doing the cash for clothes locally. We've raised £1,000 and it will be going into our fund for local events. So we'll hopefully be having our Christmas tree and lights out of the money for the cash for clothes. And there was a point made about when in lockdown we wouldn't be able to do it. It's all been done since COVID. It's all been done with protective equipment. Sorry, mind went blank then. Social distancing, and the community love it. They love the fact that they are contributing to a fund where we can have local events. It's not the only thing we're doing to raise money, but the cash for clothes itself has raised over £900. So there are things that can be done locally. I know that we're all different in different wards, but it's working for us. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thanks for that. Leaders put in the chat, I'm sure, on the collection rounds, people place recycled material into the black bag bins on occasions when they could recycle them. That's why we have black bag searches at our CA sites. Next question, Councillor Reynolds, please.
My concern raises around the fact that if the market does come back for this, that we don't, having encouraged others and community venues and whatever to set up and do this sort of work, that we then decide that we're going to do it again. And I'm assuming that this decision made will be a long-term decision.
Mr. Roberts, please.
I think, as noted in the report, reuse is higher up the waste hierarchy. It is something that is better done in the long term. So I can't. That part of it won't change. We are talking about, as set out in the report as well, a very small fraction of the tens of thousands of tons of material we collect for recycling and composting. It is a very small fraction.
Okay, thanks for that. Next question, Councillor Patterson, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very much in favour of the recommendations of this report. Given the 3 options, carry on as we are, reinstitute the use of single bags, well, that's not a viable option, and then stop collecting the curbside waste. And I wanted to ask Mike Roberts, you've almost answered it in your previous sentence, but if you could just clarify, is the amount of this refuse increasing or diminishing?
Mr. Roberts, please.
Sorry, are you talking about residual waste as a whole, or just of the textile
No, just
waste?
the textile.
It's a very good question, and I can't tell you off the top of my head.
I would surmise then, I would surmise from a personal level that we usually put them into the bags that come through the letterbox at an alarming rate for us. There are plenty of options for people to get rid of textiles. Either as an individual, you fill out one bag and you put it out for whoever the cause is that has asked for you to do it, or you go to a community thing, as Councillor Leanne Jones has said, cash for clothes. People do know now that it's their individual reduce, reuse, recycle that all adds up. And I do agree, and I can't remember who exactly said it, that they take pride in it and they are quite happy to do it. So based on the fact that it would aid the council, I'm wholly in favour of this recommendation. Thank you.
Lovely, thanks. And I think the last person indicating to speak is Councillor Arwyn Woolcock, please. Arwyn.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Paterson has just said. I can understand the difficulty that this is causing the authority in mixing textiles with the paper collection, for example. I never could understand it from the start, really, why we were mixing textiles with papers, newspapers and periodicals and junk mail, because it causes a cost for it to be sorted. So I can understand where we're coming from here. But my only plea is, Chair, is there any flexibility on it at the moment? Because if we're going to be seen to be ceasing a service at this particular time, when we are in local restrictions, then it's not going to go down very well, I don't think. For example, in the Upper Swansea and Amman Valley, our nearest household waste and recycling centre now is the site at Lower Contour, which we share with Powys. We can't really go there because we would be moving out of the county borough. So, and then coming back to the cash for clothes one, the nearest that I'm aware of for us up here is down in Crosshands. Again, we would be moving into Carmarthenshire, so we can't do that. So just a plea, really, is there any possibility of a bit of flexibility around this at this time, not to introduce it too quickly, so that we're not seen to be ceasing a service that we currently have? Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Roberts, please.
We have Craig has looked into the issue of the cross-boundary travel to the CA site for us. So I could probably paraphrase what his advice has been, but he might like to come in at this point. But we think that that is going to be fine, as it's part of an essential service.
Mr. Griffiths, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to add, what Mike was saying is ultimately correct. There are some issues under the legislation which says if it's an essential need to travel, people do have a reasonable excuse to leave the county borough to access public services if they can demonstrate there is an essential need ultimately to do so. So we could look at civic amenity sites under that sort of category itself.
Okay, thanks for that. I can see two hands up, Councillor Reynolds and Councillor Clement Williams. Are they old hands, please? Yeah. Carol, old hand?
No.
New one. Okay.
It's just to touch on what Arwyn said about the cash for clothes. I don't know if it's worth if he's thinking of it, but the cash for clothes guys with us come to us to pick the stuff up. We don't take it to them, and it would be part of their work, I would have thought.
Okay, thanks for that. I see no other indications. The leaders come up in chat, I think, saying issue on the collection rounds, people place recycled materials into the black bin bags on occasions when they could recycle.
Chair, I think it was Councillor Hunt wanted to come in for a question to Craig.
Oh, sorry, I misread that. Councillor Hunt?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, Craig mentioned essential travel. Again, the Welsh Government guidelines, they're very, how shall I say, not as clear as we would like. So, and he's head of legal, I'm sure his interpretation I would go along with. But I mean, I don't know who polices essential. I'm just wondering if you turned up with a bag full of old clothes and stuff, is that essential? You know, it's about the message that we put out. It needs to be clear. That's why I was asking Mike previously, if we are going to go back to our constituents to tell them what they can or cannot do, like the confusion already about going outside the county boroughs for many other reasons, then it needs to be clear. So, you know, if I'm going to go on social media and tell everybody, look, you can use the Lower Cumtock site to get rid of all your clothes, and people are just going to drive in their cars and whatever. I mean, I don't know how we would fit this essential need of disposing of this type of material, but I just want myself, and I'm sure other councillors would want advice to be clear of a message that's consistent for us all to use. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Griffiths, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I can take what Councillor Hunt is saying there. The terminology essential is obviously what is built into the legislation and the guidance, with the responsibility then for enforcement being the police, local authorities in various matters. I think it comes down to a degree of personal responsibility for individuals as well, as they need to ask themselves, is the journey obviously which they are embarking on then ultimately essential? So it's very difficult to give a very generic answer across the board to the query, and it has to be looked at in individual circumstances at times, but it's up to individuals. They have to make that determination, and if stopped, then they can justify then why ultimately it is that essential element.
Yeah, okay. So that's last indication I got for questions, unless I can't see anybody else wishing to speak or to ask a question. In respect to this item, the recommendation is on page 281 to go to Cabinet for, oh sorry, Councillor Morgan, you got your hand up?
Thank you, Chair. It's to do with a recommendation. I was just waiting for you to come to it. Is it possible for us to ask, please, if the Cabinet would consider adding some words to the recommendation to take on board Arwyn's point and my question from Alan Llewellyn earlier, that we look at the timescale, you know, with some sympathy, so that we're not going to be doing it in a month, as Mike has said we could, but rather that we're in local lockdown. We are looking at least perhaps till the end of the year, or some words to that effect.
Yeah, I'm wondering which way to go on this. Charlotte, please.
Yes, Chair, if the committee...
Leader's put his hand up. Leader?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I understand what Councillor Morgan is saying, but I can't see the difference in relation to delaying the implementation of this towards the end of the year. If it's coming in, it's coming in. What I would say is that I would certainly give due consideration for notice on this. We've said, and in the report it says a month. If you want to give more than, say, 2 months notice for cessation, I think that would be reasonable. But I don't think that whether it's COVID or not, this has got nothing to do with COVID. It's got about the recycle and reuse market. It's about the collection of textiles, and COVID's influence here should not be an equation that we should be taking into account. So I'm more than happy to recommend the Cabinet, should Scrutiny decide that they want more time to notice the public, but I can't see that there would be a need to delay the implementation. So if we give 2 months notice to the public, saying that cessation of textiles is going to commence from the authority, you know, we're going to be in local lockdown measures for 2 to 3 weeks. We may get lifted, it may be extended, but it doesn't make any difference to the item that's being discussed. So I would certainly accede to say a 2 month delay in relation to notification. But I think anything longer than that would be futile, to be honest with you. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I think I totally get the fact that it's not linked with COVID. It's just that at the moment, a lot of people they seem to be under stress from all directions, and we just in a very difficult period. Yeah, okay. I mean, I said end of the year. That's 3 months. I take Rob's compromise of 2 months. It sounds fine to me. As long as Arwyn's happy with that, I go along with that.
Yes. So, do you wish to put an amendment or not? Or...
Chair, do you need to come in?
Yes, please, Charlotte.
Yeah, so it's clear that Councillor Morgan wishes to put an amendment forward. I think following what the leader has suggested as well, with maybe having a 2-month kind of gap in a way. I have a form of wording here. If I just read it to the committee and see if Councillor Morgan is happy for that wording. So if we amend it to the council cease to collect textiles at the curbside and alters its marketing accordingly, providing 2 months notice to the general public. Would that be suffice, Councillor Morgan?
That's okay to me, Charlotte, yes. Arwen, do you okay with that?
So that would be changing then just point 1 of the recommendation, and then point 2 would stay the same. So Councillor Harvey, what I would suggest is putting that amendment to the committee to see if they would be happy with that, take a vote and a propose in a second.
Okay. Right. Obviously the recommendations there, we've heard what Charlotte has just said. Are we happy for that recommendation amended to go forward to Cabinet together with under point 2 there, officers work with any local outlets, etc. Anybody not happy with that, please? Okay, everybody's happy with it. Could I have a proposer, please?
I propose, Chair.
Seconder?
I can do that. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Anybody against that? No, then that goes as it is as a recommendation to Cabinet. That concludes that item. Going back to the Cabinet scrutiny papers, item 4, there are no urgent items. So that ends this meeting. I say thanks all for attending and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Talbot, Chair.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Diolch yn fawr.